418, yesterday we covered this. So 418, makes the point that although in one sense you can talk about, the various stages, the various attainments, the various paths, the various types of realizations that might arise and all of that, fundamentally, Kyobpa Rinpoche reminds us, it's basically the nature of our mind that we have to realize. And this nature of mind, we may have some very brief, some very rudimentary realization or recognition of what this is, And as I said, the fact that we came to the Buddha Dharma, especially those of you who are born in a completely different place where Buddha Dharma is not all around, and that you came to it, there's something there you have even very briefly, you have connected with this truth. Then what goes from there is basically seeing more and more of the same truth, the same nature, so that all through the levels of development, even if you can look at it from this perspective, that perspective, this and there, here you attain this, then you attain this, then you attain that. Fundamentally, what is going on, we should understand it as us becoming more and more and more, the conviction becoming stronger and stronger and stronger through seeing more and more and more, clearer and clearer and clearer, the nature of this mind. As for the nature of this mind, there are many synonyms, such as unobscured, clear like wisdom, unity, or the innate union, equality, and so on and so forth. Buddha nature, nature of mind, the natural mind, the ordinary mind, all of this are just synonyms. So that 418, says that with the same realization, that one progresses through the paths and the stages, basically working with this one basic fundamental reality, truth, that we need to become more and more convinced, more and more stable about this nature. Then 19 is addressing the same area, the same area with regards to like realization. But here is Kyobpa Rinpoche responding to some people who insist again, usually who he's responding to are people who insist to hold on to a very rigid idea of, what practice is, what realization is, things like that. So here he is responding to those who say, well, in this sutra, it is said, when you reach the first bhumi, for example, when you've reached the first stage of the bodhisattva stages, you will have the ability to be simultaneously present in 100 places. You can manifest yourself in 100 places simultaneously. So some will insist and say, that is, necessary. If anyone says they have first bhumi, that is absolutely the criteria. In a way, I now have the power to appear simultaneously in at least 21 places, I know, because I see there is 21 of us here. So Zoom has made this attainment more within reach. I just need to recruit about 80 more people just to be sure, 85 maybe, so 100 plus I can say, oh, first Bhumi achieve, I can appear simultaneously in 100 places. So here Kyobpa Rinpoche, his statement is, there are 6 alternative ways in which the qualities of attaining the stages arise. So he says, no, it's not just one way. And where he comes up with this, right? You would say, oh, where does he come up with this? Often I see that often. I mean, of course, we say, his wisdom mind sees very clearly. At that level, of course, not much to talk about. We say his wisdom mind, he can perceive. And yes, like we say, he's the master. He has mastered interdependence. That means he see in complete, without obscurations, the workings of karmic causality. So he can see, then he's telling us. And then, of course, that you can say, well, I don't know, that's based on faith. Yeah. So, okay, put that aside. It's clear that when he has things like this, when he says 6 or 4 or 5 or 2, it's not necessarily the case that he has read these like philosophical writings that kind of comb through all the available sutras and tantras, and then write a whole essay or a whole treatise, a whole shastra, listing out 7 this, 5 this, then 5 further divided into 8, then 8 have further divisions, which there is a lot of works like that, like the commentarial, we say the commentarial tradition, shastra. So in Tibetan Buddhism, now interestingly, I think a lot of people don't know this. In fact, I was talking to some people, some of the Tibetan teachers trained in this, very well trained, but history is a little fuzzy. I think many people don't like to read history. Then I pointed out, okay, these days, in many Tibetan, or all, I would say, Tibetan monasteries and nunneries, in the main shrine hall, aside from the main Buddha statues, big or small, right? And usually there's a lot of them, big and small. It's like, put as many as you can, So there's that. Another thing that is necessary, they feel, is 2 sets of sacred texts. 2 sets of sacred texts. Each set over 100 volumes. And the first set is called the Gangyo. The second set is called the Tengyo. Gyur, both the Gyur means translated. So Gangyo is the translated, Gang is Ga, Buddha's speech, Buddha's teachings. And so the translated words of the Buddha, Gangyo. Then Tengyo is the translated commentarial works by the great Indian masters. Commenting on what? Commenting on words of the Buddha. And so like right now, there's this big project called the 84,000 to translate the Gangyo into English. But a few days ago, they published one translation from the Tengyo. And they also would like to expand to the Tengyo, but mostly their focus right now is on the Gangyo. So the Gangyo and the Tengyo. So these are the two collection of texts, right? Highly valued in Tibetan Buddhism. So any monastery, big and small, if they don't have it yet, their aspiration is to collect enough money to buy a set of Kangyo, to buy a set of Tengyo. And usually it's part of the shrine. So that also means usually they don't read it. It's like a sacred object put in the shrine, the Kangyo and the Tengyo. In fact, in monasteries in Tibet, where they have like very famous Kangyo and Tengyo, like very old or written with gold letters, or so like considered like very blessed, or maybe some great master commissioned the carving of the wood blocks, right, and then the printing of these Kangyo, Tengyo. Some monasteries they put these Kangyo and Tengyo in these cabinets, and then the cabinets have very long legs. Like the legs are about this long. Then the cabinet starts, No, they didn't do that to prevent you from reading it. That's not the purpose. But it might look like, how do I get to even the first level of the cabinet, And the reason for that is, I think, let's see, Judy maybe might remember seeing these, is so that when pilgrims come, when visitors come to the monastery, they can walk underneath the Kangyo and Tengyo. Then all the blessings they think will fall down in, will like cleanse them, So sometimes not so tall, then you have to crawl underneath this bookshelf. So the Kangyo and Tengyo is very important. But interestingly, the Kangyo and the Tengyo, as it exists today, and actually there's several versions of the Kangyo and Tengyo, all of them have more or less the same content, but certain Kangyos and Tengyos may have one or two texts extra or less. But by and large, all the Kangyos and Tengyos, in all their different versions, maybe 5-6 versions, same content. But in Kyobpa Rinpoche's time in the 12th century, the Kangyo and Tengyo doesn't exist yet. They have not been brought together and put into these two forms. So you don't see Kyobpa Rinpoche talk about Kangyo and Tengyo. In fact, in his biography, many different places in the earliest biography written about him by his nephew, there are references to people presenting Kyobpa Rinpoche a set of the Perfection of Wisdom Sutras, or presenting a set of what's called the Great Heaps of Jewels, Ratnakutta Sutras, which is a collection of many different sutras. The Perfection of Wisdom is also a collection of many different Perfection of Wisdom Sutras. So when I pointed this out to some of the well-educated Tibetan Buddhist lamas, and they say, "Oh, actually didn't know that. Now it makes sense why, in his biography, they say, oh, he was presented with this set of texts and that set of texts, but never really noticed that nowhere does it say in there that he was presented with a whole set of Kangyo, a whole set of Tengyo." So during his time, not only were texts not so easily available, but what in later Tibetan Buddhism has become standard, meaning this whole collection of Kangyo and Tengyo, that did not exist in Kyobpa Rinpoche's time. But we do know from his collected teachings that he read a lot of sutras. Not so much Shastras, not so much the commentarial works. I think even then the commentarial works were not so widely circulated. And even the words of the Buddha, what would eventually be part of the Gangyur, even the words of the Buddha, again, not so widely available. But whatever was available, I think, Kyobpa Rinpoche really spent time reading them. In one teaching that we translated, he says, don't read so much these commentarial things. Because whether it's composed in Tibet or whether it's composed in India, he says, don't read so much this. He says, these are all just, people thinking up more things, writing things to impress themselves, writing things to impress other people. He says, rather than reading that, he says, read the words of the Buddha. That means he says, read the sutras, So now, 84,000, if you can read in English, they are translating a lot of the words of the Buddha. So we know that Kyobpa Rinpoche read a lot, whatever that came from the words of the Buddha, whatever that came from the commentarial tradition, maybe, not so much he didn't read. So when he says here, coming back to here, there are 6 ways in which the qualities of attaining the bodhisattva stages arise. It's not necessarily that he read some kind of commentarial tradition and then he got this idea that there are 6, because things like this usually they come from the commentarial tradition, from the Tengyo. But more likely in his case is he has read enough sutras and noticed that, well, over there, the qualities manifest in this way. After this individual is said to have attained some particular significant stage. And over there, another way. Over there, another way. So he himself, is noticing. Then he says, there's at least 6 ways, not just one way. If you think it's only one way, that means, you don't know much. Either you don't know much or you are biased, you just pick one way and you don't want to see how. In the sutras, there are quite a number of ways in which these qualities. So here also in making this statement, it means qualities are basically, the emphasis there is what other people can see. Your realization, your attaining of the stages, mainly is only you can see, only you can perceive. But corresponding with that, often there is a discussion of those things that other people can see. So appearing in 100 places simultaneously is something that other people can see, right? You could say they are like the side effects, the external signs that other people might be able to see when you have reached a particular stage of attainment, right? Some people might say, oh, this person, very special when I'm around them, it is as if blah, 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 blah. So these are like the qualities. These are like the qualities. So Kyobpa Rinpoche says, these qualities can arise in 6 different ways. So he says in 419, there are 6 different ways in which the qualities of attaining the various stages would show, would arise, would manifest. So let's look at Khenpo Kunpal. His commentary says, moreover, there are 6 alternative ways, 6 different ways in which the qualities of attaining the various bodhisattva stages would arise. There is the gradual way, the instantaneous way. And so this is about speed. And gradual and instantaneous is about speed. Slowly, 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 those qualities would arise. or very suddenly, those qualities would arise. The way where some qualities are present and some not, the way where there are qualities but others cannot see them, so there's even these hidden qualities only perceptible to yourself. The way where qualities are seen through yogic experience, meaning those qualities are only perceived by others who have a different kind of ability, and then they can see your quality. And the way described in the scriptures. In sequence, and the way described in the scriptures, to me, that's almost like a catch-all, And then there are many other ways that has described in the scriptures. So maybe in that sense, you say, well, more than 6, In sequence, these can be connected to our teacher, the Buddha, meaning the historical Buddha. So it says, historical Buddha gradually cultivated, and or rather, and here we're talking about attainments and the manifesting of qualities. Those qualities gradually arose in Buddha Shakyamuni. Then instantaneous is said to be seen in the example of Avalokiteshvara. So the footnote tells us the Bodhisattva Avalokiteshvara received pith instructions when he had reached the first Bodhisattva stage and quickly traveled through the first five Bodhisattva stages, at which point all the qualities of the 5 stages arose instantaneously in him. So in some sutras that describe the past training of Avalokiteshvara, it tells us this. Whereas in Buddha Shakyamuni's way of going through the 10 stages, slow compared to this. 3, the Bodhisattva Sudana, who had 150 gurus. Footnote, the Bodhisattva Sudana's first guru was the Bodhisattva Manjushri. But after teaching him, Manjushri sent him to another Bodhisattva guru. That guru again sent him to another Bodhisattva guru. And this story shows that all these Bodhisattvas did not yet have all the Buddha qualities fully developed. The number seems to be wrong here, but it should rather be 110 gurus. This is the translator noticing some discrepancy. So the point is that in the story of this Bodhisattva Sudana, he had to go to different gurus for the different qualities to arise. As well as the Bodhisattva teachers that he went to, some of their qualities were apparent, so then he can, benefit from those qualities. And some of the qualities were not apparent. So both ways, although this note seems to suggest it's only one way, I feel it's both ways. Because there's an interdependence there. Somewhere Kyobpa Rinpoche says, if the teacher don't have those qualities, it's impossible for the student to give rise to the qualities because of that teacher. A particular quality can only arise in a student, guided by someone who has those same qualities. Then Nagarjuna. So Nagarjuna corresponds to the way where there are qualities but others cannot see them. So here it says Nagarjuna was on a high bodhisattva stage, although this was not perceived by ordinary people. Other commentaries on the single intention mention Asanga in this context. Asanga had to practice Maitreya Buddha continuously for 12 years before he was able to see him. And then when he carried Maitreya around town, nobody could see Maitreya on Asanga's shoulders. Then the fifth example, the example of the way where qualities are seen through yogic experience, is the case of Milarepa. The fifth example given here in the commentary to illustrate qualities are seen through yogic experience. So then the footnote here, the translator is helping us by saying, some qualities can only be perceived by persons who have developed yogic perception. For example, only Serima was able to see all of Milarepa's qualities, whereas some ordinary people saw him as a worn-out beggar. So this is that example. So Milarepa, it's not like he didn't have those qualities. He had those qualities. But only Serima is this goddess that is, in our Sang practice, we talked about her. And she was also one of Milarepa's chief disciples. Only she could see those qualities. Then the sixth is, it is not being taught in the scriptures that one attains 1,200 qualities in one go when one attains the path of seeing. It is taught in the Sutra of the 10 stages that one attains 1,200 qualities on the first stage gradually. The first bodhisattva stage is called also the path of seeing. And so this is addressing that issue. People say, oh, you say that's the first bhumi. Where's your, where are your qualities? It says a bodhisattva on the first stage often becomes a ruler of the world. And following that, it says that according to one's wishes, a bodhisattva on the first stage can strive in different ways. He can leave his home, his wife, all his wealth to become ordained into the Tathagata's teachings. Having become ordained, he can be in one moment completely attain 100 states of meditative concentration and so forth. This is how one should strive. Therefore, this means that at the beginning, when one attains the second stage, the 1,200 qualities have arisen. So this is Khenpo Kunpal's commentary. So what's hidden behind this commentary? Not necessarily the statement. I think Kyobpa's statement addresses, some issues, and what these issues are. When Gampopa started to teach in a way that is different from the more kind of technical, scholastic, very based on, this text says this text says that text says that. When Gampopa began to teach, Mahamudra in a more direct experiential way, he did say, this student has achieved the first bodhisattva bhumi, second or third or fourth, right? Through the direct method that he used. Guru devotion, pointing out the nature of mind, students recognizing nature of mind, quickly stabilizing nature of mind, giving rise to. So he matches these Mahamudra stages with the Bodhisattva stages. And there were other people criticizing that, saying, what? What? They say he has attained this stage, that stage. Where are his magic powers? Basically, people are disputing this by saying, mainly asking to see magical powers. When they say qualities, mainly they want to see magical powers. They say, you say you have attained this, you said you have attained that, or you said this student have attained that student has attained that. Show me your magic powers. So you see the importance, of miraculous display. Despite, we know, generally the Buddha says, no. These magical displays, don't flaunt them, don't demonstrate them, don't parade them around. He forbade his monks and nuns from showing them. But still, people want to see. They say, that's the proof, So here, people are demanding to see things like that. And so then, within this Gagyu family, all those under the umbrella of Gampopa's tradition of Gagyu, it will say, the realization of mind, nature of mind, may or may not correspond with obvious signs of magical display. That there are many ways, that this process unfolds. It need not be that definitely qualities have to come up this way or that way. So this is what this statement is about. Yeah. So today we will stop here.